All right, this is presentation 2 where we're going to talk about conflict and stress in the workplace. So, we have different kinds of conflict. I'm going to kind of go through a personal story that I dealt with a supervisor of mine. And I think this is important because there's a lot of things to take away of how to do things and not how to do things. So, I had a personal conflict with my supervisor. So, to kind of give you some background on what happened, I input some data for the person behind me, so the day shift counterpart that I took over the job for, because he didn't do it, and I knew if we didn't get it done, it would lead to a whole lot of headaches, a lot of issues, and just any number of problems down the road. And this was not uncommon that we had to put in data for somebody else, but it happened every now and again. Well, I would say a couple weeks later, it came out that something was wrong with the job. Then I was questioned why I signed something off I didn't do by my supervisor. And I sat there and I tried to explain to him that I didn't sign it off. I just put the information in for the person. And he didn't quite comprehend that just because I put in the information doesn't mean I signed it off. Meaning I didn't do the job. It was the person before me. Because they had taken it over the next day, so they did sign off all of their work. But because my name was on it, he associated me with that issue ticket, essentially, the issue that happened. And when I sat there and explained to him that we have to go and put in information sometimes to get things moving for somebody else, he flipped out, is the best way I could describe. He started saying, well, you're doing inappropriate things by doing that. This is not good. We can't be doing this anymore. So on and so forth. And we kind of got into a yelling match. I'm not going to lie. It escalated very quickly, where I told him, this is how we do things. You go to anybody else on the floor, and it just happens. So he said, we need to stop this right now. And at being the supervisor, I said, okay, you need to tell everybody else what you want to do and how to do it, because this is how we're doing it currently. Well, this ended up being a big factor of why I did end up leaving that company, in the grand scheme of things, just because of how clueless he was in the actual work that was being done. He didn't take an effort to go figure out why we were doing it, and he didn't listen to his workers. So it was not handled well, and it ended up being a deciding factor on why I left and why I know a few other people left the company and his supervision as well. How it could have been handled. Well, first off, it wasn't handled well, especially when we were at a yelling competition and me trying to tell him and getting frustrated by him not listening. And I think that was the biggest problem. It's the lack of listening, the lack of understanding of the job, of the forms and the paperwork we had to do, where he could have easily gone to the upper management and said, no, this wasn't my guy. He just tried to help out this person by putting in this information, but he didn't sign off anything. He didn't complete the job. He just scanned a barcode and called it a day because it was a time-sensitive material that needed to be recorded. So the level of not understanding ignorance and just not handling the situation well by diffusing anything. And I probably didn't help, but I wasn't the supervisor here. And once things started escalating, he just said, okay, well, maybe I'm not getting what's going on, or something along those lines. So, next thing we're going to be talking about is stress. Stress in an organization. It's there, it will always be there. My biggest stressor was definitely the military. And unfortunately, the military, you just kind of have to deal with it. And that's not really a good way of doing it. I know a lot in recent terms, they've had a lot more training how to deal with stress, making sure your home life is good, making sure there's options. You can go to a chaplain and talk about things, or even go to mental health and there's no stigma involved, or there's no repercussions for going in, getting that kind of extra help. And that kind of goes into the how to deal with stress. It's making sure you have an avenue, you have friends to go to, or just even to bitch and complain. Because that's honestly a decent stress reliever. You guys all get together, have a beer, go, man, this sucks. And, you feel a little bit better afterwards. Some examples that I've personally had was we were being worked 12 hours a day for any number of weeks because we had to get ready for some exercise or something. And a stress reliever we did was every Friday when we got done with work, we all hung out and drank some beers and just kind of vented, or, just enjoyed each other's company. And it all kind of helped morale and everybody was okay. And we got the job done a lot better going forward. And I think that's kind of the biggest thing, especially in work, is find other people with like minds, hang out with them maybe outside of work or even at work. Develop those friendships too. So that has been my presentation. Have a good night.